All right, we're going to go ahead and transfer a chart of accounts setup from one QuickBooks file to another. So why would you want to do this? We have, especially in the enterprise market, right? We have a ton of enterprise customers here at Fourlane. We have a lot of customers that themselves have several QuickBooks files. So as an example, we have a diocese client that has several churches and schools and different setups. And what we did, and initially when they came to us, they had each church, each school had its own version of QuickBooks, right? Some were in QuickBooks 2006, some were in QuickBooks 2008, some were in Premier, some were in Pro, all over the board. So what we did was that we got them all moved into a consistent version, Enterprise, right? And because Enterprise is released with your subscription, you get your new release every year. So it was nice because then we had consistency among all the different schools and churches. And then also what we wanted to do was we wanted to be able to have consolidated reporting. So we wanted to be able to pull from each of the different data files, each church, each school, etc., and report on them as a whole. So again, when they were sporadically set up where, this church tracked income and then this church tracks sales, it was very difficult to match them up. So we wanted to have a consistent chart of accounts. Okay. And we've done this not only for a diocese, that was an example, we've done this for franchises. A lot of franchises out there, they want to have consistent chart of accounts among their franchisees. So when their franchisees report on it, then we have that consistency and we can do realistic comparisons. Okay. So how do we transfer a chart of accounts from one file to another? So here is my file that we set up in the previous videos back in the beginner section. And I have a chart of accounts in here that's pretty minimal, right? It has just the accounts that are required. I do have sales tax turned on, so it creates a sales tax payable account for me, opening balance, equity, and retained earnings, obviously. And then we also have, just as a side note here, we have our non-posting transactions, so estimate, sales orders, purchase orders, etc. Once those are turned on, you'll get on your chart of accounts these non-posting transactions. Nothing gets posted to them. They just show up on this list here. Okay, so how do I transfer from chart of accounts from one file to another? So I'm going to move into the file that I want to transfer from. Okay, so I'm going to open up my wholesale account. And this wholesale account is where we had actually gone in a video upcoming, right, where we talk about how to organize your chart of accounts. So in here, when I look at my chart of accounts, I go, okay, that's right. This is, the chart of accounts that I want. This is my consistent chart of accounts I want to use for every one of my QuickBooks company files that I'm working with. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Utilities, Export, List to Iif File. So you have to be able to have permissions, right? So I think in some of the Pro Premier editions, you have to have admin rights. In Enterprise editions, you have to be able to export these lists. So I'm going to export the chart of accounts only. Notice there's some other lists that we can export. Now the Iif format, which is the Intuit interchange format, is a format that was written for QuickBooks, right? That QuickBooks created a long time ago. Like 2006, 2005, a long time ago. So it is a really old format. I don't recommend using the Iif format for hardly anything. Definitely not transactions. If you're importing transactions via Iif, give us a call. There's a little tool we can use, or use Transaction Pro Importer, or give us a call, because it's definitely not the most efficient way or the best way for your data file to accept data. Because again, we're talking into a database that was created in 2015, 2016 in a language from 2006, right? So you can just imagine. So again, I don't recommend using these Iif files except for very simple, minimal transfers, like the chart of accounts. Okay. Customers, vendors, you lose some data in there. So again, chart of accounts. Okay, so I'm going to export this. I'm just going to stick it on my desktop for now, call it COA. Say save. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and close out of this company file and open back up my Fourlane file. Okay, now that we have the Fourlane file here opening up, and I'm going to go in, again, my chart of accounts, right? Pretty minimal. Now I'm going to go into File and Utilities and do the opposite side. So import Iif files. Now notice I didn't make any changes to the Iif file or anything like that. I could have gone in and edited it in Excel and made some changes, but I don't want to do that for now. That's another video. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose coa.iif. Notice the only file type that we can choose is an Iif file, right? So that's the only one that's going to import. So I'm going to say open. Okay, and it says my data has been imported. Now, if there are any errors, it would spit back some errors and give us some warnings. And of course, it doesn't give us too much. It usually says something like line 56 was a problem. So you have to go and do some investigative work. But now that I've imported it in, so I have my chart of accounts in here set up the way that I like having it set up. Now in the other file, I did have account numbers turned on. I don't have them turned on in this file. If I did want to use account numbers, right? Edit, preferences, accounting, use account numbers, and then those account numbers are all there. Okay, so that's how to transfer a chart of accounts from one file to another.